Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today I'm going to show you how to demolish a deck safely. Now we've all seen it on TV, we've all seen it in the movies, how you hook it up to your truck and you just floor it. That's not how you safely remove a deck. There's nothing safe about that. I don't advise doing it that way. So we're going to show you today how we dismantle a deck. We do it in stages. So if you like this video, or maybe you learn a little something, you see a new tool that you haven't used before or that you might obtain because of this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. 83% of you do not subscribe to our channel, and we're trying to raise that ratio. So do me a favor, click that button. Hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when we're putting out new content. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is after we get everything unloaded, we're gonna have an empty truck staged and ready to go. After that, we're gonna cut all the rails off the deck. Now, since we're taking it to a recyclery, we don't really care if the railing is in good shape or not. Sometimes we'll leave it in longer lengths if we need some sidewalls to hold up for more debris. But usually we just cut it and try to compact it as much as possible. That's the secret when we're taking a deck down, because I'm putting it in the back of my flatbed truck. We have to try to compact it as much as possible. So we don't like to leave big chunks of stuff. If we do, we put those on at the end of our day, where we already have all the flat stuff down in the bed of the truck, and then we put all the chunky stuff on top. So basically what we're gonna do, we're gonna take all the rails off, then we're going to systematically take the decking up with some tools that we have. We're gonna cut it into 6-foot lengths, take that up. After that's done, then we'll remove the framing one joist at a time safely, and then we take the beams and the posts down. Sometimes we'll tip those over if it's safe, and that's okay to do, but we're not gonna hook it up to the mini skid steer, for example. Just because it's here and it's powerful and has a lot of pulling force, we're not gonna use that to tear down the deck. We might use it to lower some stuff, but we're not gonna use it to pull it away from the house, okay? All right, so stay tuned and see how we do. All right, so first step, you gotta have a place to take it. A lot of people will have a dumpster or something like that to throw all their stuff in. That's a great way to do it too, but it's expensive. I can get rid of this load for about $150 to $200, sometimes up to $400, depending on how much things weigh, the time of year, if it's full of moisture. It's always by weight. But basically, what's left in this truck is just stuff from our last project. But I already told the guys, hey, take out any garbage, because I'm not gonna be able to dump it at a recyclery. We're going to just put it in the back of the truck. So all this stuff I can dump with our load that we're about to take out of here. So we got an empty truck, time to get going. We're gonna start ripping things down and start getting them ready to go. When you're trying to take a deck down, the first thing we do is we remove all of the railing. Railings can stay up for safety reasons, but if you're demolishing or if you're comfortable with demoing something, you just need to get it out of your way. So the first thing we do is take the rail down. We're gonna take it down in sections, probably 3 or 4 feet at a section, up to 6 feet, but no longer than that. So it'll compact into our truck and fit nicely, and then when we go to dump it, it'll come out as well. So that's the first thing I gotta do, is just cut up some short sections of rail. All of our railing is down now, so the next step is removing the decking. This deck is a little different. Some of it's been remodeled and has a newer composite product on it. Some of the old stuff was just straight wood 2x4s, and those were just nailed, and we just used our tools to rip those apart. This section of the deck's newer, and it has screws. So we're gonna try to unscrew this deck and pull the decking. It is the safest way to do this. Some people are gonna say, oh, why didn't you just cut in between all the joists and do it that way? Well, you can do it that way. For one, it makes a big mess. And two, it's not as safe to walk around on when you pull it apart. So what I'm gonna do, we try to make everything that we're throwing in the back of our truck 6 feet or less. So I'm gonna cut a 6-foot line here, or close to it, about a 5.5 feet, whatever, around 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet. Cut a line, and then I'm just gonna start unscrewing these boards, and then I can just take them over and toss them off the deck, and then they can be thrown in the truck. Our dump zone is over there. I'm starting on this side of the deck, and I'm working back that way. It's more efficient than throwing everything on the ground, and then you have to go around and pick everything up. I'm just trying to throw it into one drop zone. Everybody knows where that drop zone is, so we all steer clear of it as we're walking around it, so nobody throws something off the deck and knocks somebody in the head. All right, now that that's done, I'm just gonna take a drill and see if I can pull some of these screws. Sometimes the screws are stripped or broken, or they don't work so well pulling out. We'll go to alternate methods after that, but we're gonna start with the one we think is gonna work the best. A couple screws stripped here, but you can see if I try to pull the board with too much tension because it's composite, it's just gonna snap anyway. So usually what I'll do is I'll pull all the screws, and then I'll just move all the decking out of the way, and then I'll haul it over and drop it off the edge of the deck. So for right now, I think I'm just gonna start undoing some screws. All right guys, so I tried unscrewing a board, which does take some time. But then I also have these fancy pry bars that are designed for tearing deck boards apart. This one's called a Demo Deck by Green Tech Tools. And it worked probably just as fast, if not faster, than the unscrew method. And it takes less effort. I don't have to get on my hands and knees as much. So I think we're gonna try to tear most of the deck apart with this, and then as we get closer to the house where these tools don't work so well, then we'll just unscrew it by hand. The screws are in much better condition up against the house under the eave, so those will be easier to take out. The ones out here are kind of weathered and hammered, and you can kind of see they're pulling right out of the, some of them are staying in the frame, some of them are pulling out of the frame. So I'm gonna try to use this tool first, and I think I'll have a little bit more luck getting these boards off of here, and then we'll go from there and see which one's faster. For those of you that don't have the fancy deck tool, we can also use a standard pry bar, or I call them a banana bar sometimes because they have a slight curve to them, and those work as well. You can stick them between the decking and pry up, and then you can start using leverage as your friend, and it'll start pulling the boards as well. I mean, basically all of our pry bar tools are based on leverage anyways, so there's a more simplistic way to do this, or you can just take your skill saw and start running your saw through both sides of each joist bay. We've done that before, but like I said before, it drops everything and leaves kind of a mess down below. But depending on if you're an above ground deck or maybe you're on a lower deck, it may be the right way for you. So it just kind of depends on what tools you have and what's available to you for tearing out your deck. Okay, so now I'm getting close to the house. I was able to get some of the screws out of the boards, but some of them stripped or wouldn't remove. So we're back to prying. So I showed you one type of pry bar that you use leverage towards the house, but now I can't get the leverage because I'm up against the house. So the last 4 boards, I'm using a different pry bar, and this one is called a deck wrecker. And I'll be prying away from the house to get the last 4 boards off. So basically, I just stick it in between the joists, and then I just start prying away, like so. how that one works. So now that we have the decking removed off this top of this deck, it's still pretty sturdy, okay? But we just got to go to the next step, and the next step is going to be taking all the joists off. Unfortunately for us, now somebody who tried to do a good job building this deck, they put brackets on every single joist from joist to beam connection, which when you're doing a demo is a bad thing because you got to deal with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock off this outside rim joist first, so it frees up a little bit of the ability to move these joists back and forth. They're not all going to be tied to the same board anymore. So we'll knock that off, and then I'm going to decipher how I want to take down the joists. We have a couple different options. One would be to cut them at the house and see if I can get them out of those brackets, or we're going to have to cut them at the bracket so that we can get them down and remove. So first things first, let's go ahead and knock the rim joist off, and then we'll worry about all the floor joists. I really didn't think it was going to come off that easy, but you can kind of see that they only had 2 screws into some 2x4s, which really wasn't holding much up. This wasn't structural. So lucky for me, they weren't all attached into here. They were just attached into here, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, does it? But it is what it is. Looks like it was a repair. Somebody put a new outside rim joist on, and they just screwed into the 2x4s instead of the 2x8s for some reason, which it is what it is. So great, that was easy. Let's get on to the joists. And now I have another issue that I came across. These old joists, I'm not sure, but they look like they're actually going into the house, which is a surprise, another surprise, an unpleasant one actually. It's unfortunate, but now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this back here and just see if I can get this out of here, right? And then I'm gonna see if these are actually going into the house or if they're attached to the outside or the belly board of the house. I don't know. There's no way of telling until I take some of this siding out of here. So we might do a little bit of investigation into that soon. So maybe I can get that on this video today. But for now, because the main goal today is just get these decks out of here. I don't care how we do it. If we use explosives or whatever, but like this video is about how to safely take down a deck. There's other ways to take down a deck, okay? I'm just trying to show you a really safe method so that you don't get hurt, because demolition's fun and everybody has a great time, but there can be injuries that happen if you don't do it right. So what I'm gonna do for the first test, I'm just gonna cut up this side of this joist, make it loose, because the problem is over here. If you look over here, you'll see that they have these hurricane brackets attached to every joist. Even though they didn't nail the outside of the rim joist on, at least they put these in, okay, for an uplift situation or something. It's gonna hold this joist down to this beam. But I just wanna get these out of here as fast as I can. I doubt I'm gonna be able to unscrew them, which might be an option. I might come in and just take a screw gun and unscrew these 4 screws. Then it'll come out super easy. So it's just a little bit of figuring that out. I'm probably spending too much time talking about it. Let's just see what happens when we try to do one, okay? Okay, another bummer. Remember that 2x4 that everything was attached to on the outside rim joist? Unfortunately, I have to cut through that on the other side, which I don't think I can quite do. Okay, I'm gonna have to grab a Sawzall to finish my cut. Okay, so that's down, and you can kind of see what's happening. The bracket is kind of holding the joist in. So either we got to rip this out, which is, I don't know, a little hokey. I think I'm gonna go grab a Phillips and see if I can undo these screws really quick. It'll just come apart so much faster. And then what we'll be left with, once that's done, is we'll just have this up against the house and this board. We can deal with this later, after this is demoed. While I'm setting helical piles, the guys can be over here working on the side of the house, getting things straight, getting all this material, the rest of the material off. We just want to get the chunk of the change out of here today, and then we can worry about the stuff on the house next week. All right, so all these screws are so stripped and full of paint that it's just gonna be faster if I just cut everything. So I'm just gonna double cut these joists and get them out of here. It's just gonna be faster, so I'm just gonna do that. Alright guys, so now all the joists are safely removed from the house. We still have all this to deal with. It just really depends on the type of deck you're tearing down and how old it is and how decrepit it is will determine how fast it comes down and with what kind of ease or difficulties. Since these joists are protruding through the house, we have some extra work to do over here to prep the side of the house. But again, what I'm really worried about today is just getting all the materials down and out of our way so we can start rebuilding this deck. So now that all the joists are moved and all the brackets are taken off, or all the joists are removed from the brackets, this is very wobbly now. Look at that. Okay, so a little more dangerous. It's not super high off the ground, so it's not too bad of danger. The deck over there is much higher, so we'll have to be a little more careful when we take that section down. Sometimes we can, if we give it enough push, you can kind of see this deck is built on a footing block, and the entire footing block is moving when I push on this. So there's a couple ways we can do this. I can take a Sawzall and just cut through these posts and just let this thing flop over, which is probably what I'm gonna do. Sometimes we can actually just push the whole thing over and it will just flip over. But because the footing block is giving us some resistance, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut through both of these, and then this thing will just flop over, and then this section of the deck's done. It's demoed, and all I have to do is finish loading it up in the truck, and then we can leave. If you are uncomfortable taking down a beam this wide, you can also segment this beam into different lengths, and I've done that several times as well. It makes it a little bit easier to dismantle. So I'm gonna repurpose this beam and posts set, so we're not gonna cut it down. But normally I would just cut this into 2 or 3 lengths, and then it's really easy to dispose of. Oh man, I hit my machine. But at least we didn't take out the tripod. See how dangerous that could be? I didn't think that was gonna happen. Always be careful, ABC. Always be careful when you're demoing decks, and then you'll never get hurt. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Hope you learned a little something about how to safely remove a deck. If you did, please don't forget to click that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a great day.